welcome back to another video of jPlay. I am Marcus and today I'll walk you through a couple of rounds of Minigolf Designer. A game that's currently on Kickstarter, designed by Alban Nanti, and yes, you will definitely find a link to the campaign in the description of this video. Usual disclaimer, everything that you will see or that you're about to see is basically a prototype, so final components may or may not look different to what you see here. Some of the stuff already seems pretty finished, some of the stuff not so much, especially those tiles here. I could imagine that, I don't know, those are still handmade, but we come to that later on. In this game, you are trying to build the most famous and most prestigious mini golf course. And you do this for basically a couple of entrepreneurs, which in this case consists of Mrs. Sprinkle and Mr. Lucky 4. And there are various other basically cards or, yeah, I would say entrepreneurs in this deck. I think you have 6 each, at least in my version of the game. Could be that the Kickstarter adds some more of those, but especially as you're really putting them together in a random fashion, you really have a high amount of variability anyway for that. Mrs. Sprinkle basically wants us to use as much water as possible in our mini golf course, whereas Mr. Lucky 4, yeah, the name is programmed here, is basically looking for holes that has a par 4. You might ask, hey, par 4 in mini golf? To be honest, I'm not really that versed in mini golf, but the way I'm usually playing this is a little bit different, so there aren't really pars. But it could be that the professional version of mini golf is completely different to whatever I'm used to. In this game, we are definitely designing golf courses that have a real par value. I think I may not be able to perform a complete playthrough of this game because I'm really focused on the, I think, advanced game of the game. There is a basic version, so that's the score track for the basic version of the game. You basically score all those different categories, and there really it's a lot of things you have to keep in mind. Whereas on the advanced side, you still score all those individual dimensions or individual categories, I think that's referred to. But on top of this, you're also trying to basically fulfill promises you have made in order to please those guys here, Mrs. Sprinkle and Mr. Lucky 4. And that's pretty an actual nice mechanic in this game, because each player starts the game their set of so-called promise cards, and it's the same set of promise cards. And at the start of the game, it's, I would say, somewhat similar to Ticket to Ride, for example, where you are also trying to complete these routes. Basically on the map you're playing. In this case, you're really saying for each of the scoring categories, you say, for example, hey, I will be the best. I will score the most amount of victory point for the fun promise here, which in this case means I have more golfers on my golf course at the end of the game. Or for example, here I'm basically the guy who is able to satisfy Mr. Client's whim. So basically Mr. Lucky 4 better than all the other players, and it's all secret. So I start with at least one of those fun promises. I can basically go in with all 7, but that's definitely a risk. And throughout the game, there are some possibilities to add additional promises. So it's maybe not a bad idea starting with only 1 or 2 promises from the get-go. And then depending on when this possibility comes up, you can then say, let's add another promise because I see, hey, I'm doing pretty well in that particular dimension. From that, both of the players, so I'm playing with red against blue, have basically drawn 3 of those course cards or land or deed cards here at the start of the game. And then you have to pick one, and you reveal those also simultaneously. So this basically tells you how much points you can score from a maximum from this particular dimension. You can lose some points if you're not basically doing this right or not exactly according to what's shown here. You cannot gain some, but it also tells you how many tiles you have to play. In this case, it's 400 square meters, whereas the other player has 410 square meters, which means I think she has to play 1 additional, basically divide that by 10, and that's the amount of tiles you have to play. So in theory, that's the card for the blue player, he can basically end the game earlier. So I think he will decide to go with this promise here from the get-go. Not anything else from that point. We will start here. So I'm basically, blue says, I will complete my game faster than the other player, more or less. I come to that a little bit later. Of course, this is really face down, so the other players do not know which promise I'm making. Red is also doing a promise, and I think red will simply go for this card here. I'm not showing this to you to keep a little bit of suspense. This is open information. So basically all the other players know which course I'm about to design. And in respect to those promises, I basically check then at the end of the game. Again, this was my promise. I'm faster. And if I basically made that better than all the other players, in this case, there is only one other player, I score 10 additional points. On the other hand, let's say I make that promise and I'm not the best or not the fastest builder here in this game, I will lose 10 points. And that a little bit depends on how many players there are. In a two-player game, this is really punishing you. Either gain 10 points or you're losing 10 points. If you're not making any promise for that, then you don't lose or gain anything. But it's still for the other players who basically determine who is going to be best. Game itself is really, really incredibly simple. During your turn, you either pick one of those tiles or you pass. That's all you do. And when you have chosen your tile, then you have to build it right away. In this case, blue will go first. And I think, as we know, we have Mrs. Sprinkle out, who wants to see water. I think it may not be a bad idea to go with this or that tile. That's a water tile. So that's 2 points if I go for one of those. I can only go for the next row. So this is basically future knowledge. And depending on which tile I get, it determines who will go first during the next round. So I think in this case, blue will definitely go for this tile. That's 2 points. We grab it for now. And red now can make a choice. In theory, she could also go for this one, or she could go for this one. And this is a nice T, because each hole apparently needs at least a T and the target hole or so in order to complete. Because again, there's a lot of things going on in this game. And don't get fooled by the artwork here. It really reminds me a little bit of, what was the other game? Inhabit the Earth, right. Where there was also very childlike kind of artwork, but it was really a very tough game, a very mature game. And the same is true here. So really, don't make no mistake. This is really a very, very serious game where you really have to make a lot of serious decisions throughout the game. So it's definitely not a kid's game. But still, red has to make a choice if she wants to go for a tile or if she wants to pass. And if she passes, you sit on the bank and then you more or less make sure that you will be first for the next round here down there. But I think in this case, yeah, that's really tempting. But this also helps you basically getting your course going. No, I think red will go for this tile here. This goes back to the back. Of course, we have to place the tiles now. Let's start with blue. And you can basically place a tile either adjacent to one of you, although that's basically a starting tile that consists of 2 spaces which you can play. But in this case, it's also legal to place it diagonally adjacent. That's very odd for a tile laying game, but in this case, it's allowed. And sometimes you really need to do that. And that's still something which maybe red could have gone for. But in this case, I think it doesn't really matter. I think blue will simply place this tile here. And keep in mind, blue really has to keep in mind not to go beyond the boundary. So you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tiles. And so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tiles. If blue would place a 7th tile, you would already start losing points towards the end of the game. In order to end the game, you usually want to complete your course as much as possible in order not to lose any additional points here. So yeah, I think for blue that's easy. Let's place it like this. Let's see what red needs to do. And I think red will start here. And I think it's maybe a good idea to name this one here directly hole 1 so that we don't forget. So that's basically our starting point, because again, there's a whole lot of things that you basically need to be aware of. For example, you can score a category where you complete the best golf course or the smoothest golf course, and that's pretty much meaning that you only need one step from one, basically here from the entry to the hole 1, and then from the hole to the next tee of the next hole. So then you would also score some extra points. You really want to condense things, but you also need to be aware that we are staying within bounds here. And for red, it's a little bit more complicated, but she can also score a point more. So overall, that's okay. And this little flag here means that this is now basically part of a par 1 hole. So what we will do right now is to remind you that's hole 1, and we have already a par 1 because we see one flag here. Ideally, you want a hole that's between 3 and 5 in respect to par, because then you really score some extra points. So for every hole that you make it in this green section here, you will score, I think it's 2 points if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Yeah, I think it's basically 2 points for each of those. So you can really score 18 points if you somehow make it. One additional thing, and really I'm talking way too much, you have 36 cubes. So ideally you want all holes to be a par 4, because then you're not losing or any points, because for every red cube you have left at the end of the game, or red player will lose a point, whereas for each black cube that she has to use now, in this case, she will also lose a point. So if you're running out of those red cubes, you have to start using black cubes. And also keep in mind, we have Mr. Lucky 4 here, and he wants to see par 4 holes. Wow, yeah, you see, that's that's only scratching at the top of things here. But that's pretty much our very first turn. We'll prepare our next hole. So this will slide up. So that's pretty much our next selection. The first one will be here. Then we are looking at this gigantic... Wow, it's really insane. It's 500 grams of tiles or so. It's really insane. So let's say we will put those out. Always one more than there are players. I think these are 2 6s. So the first 6 goes in here. The second 6 goes in here. And okay, that's the last one here. And you see that here. That's basically a 3, which means if red would take it, she could really make her par 1 into a par 4. You simply add up those flags in each of those courses. So this is really an outstanding tile for red. So she wants to make sure to get it somehow. And she has now first dips on this row here. So now it would be a good time basically looking into if she wants to be first or last. On the other hand, this is also very nice. This is great too, because here we get 2 golfers. So that's 2 additional points for one of those scoring categories. Yeah, really insane stuff. So the first one here wants to see characters. So these are 2 characters, and it also has this little water thing here, which is awesome for Mrs. Sprinkle. I think that's the perfect one. So red will go for this tile here, and blue could now decide, okay, I want also some golfers here, but I also could say, this is also nice. Or he could pass, but passing doesn't really help him because he can use this tile and he will be first anyway for the next hole. So I think in this case, yeah, he will go for this. That's 2 golfers and has a hole in it. And blue will place this one here and he will name this hole 9. So pretty much the final hole. Why would he do that, you might ask? Is because you want to have the whole of the final hole, pretty much, basically make it adjacent to the exit, because then again you can score 2 points. So that's basically 2 points if someone will be able to make it from here to there. Awesome. So that's hole 9. We have a par of 1 right now, so we mark it here. Again, we will do that pretty much as we go, just not to forget which holes we have out there and how much par values we have. You can reassign those holes and cubes later on as much as you go, but it's still a good practice doing this throughout the game so you're not missing out, because in the end you really want 9 holes, not 8, not 10, you want 9 holes. That's definitely your goal, and you want to place those holes in an ideal way so that you can prefer the perfect circuit in this case. Okay, let's see what Red is doing. I think she wants to continue here. So she's now completing her hole 1. So she gets 2 more cubes. It's not ideal, so it will not score her any points for Mr. Lucky 4. But because it's in the green zone, she will still score 2 points for that. And keep in mind, when we count it here from this one up, we basically have 1 more space here. So here we could either start a new hole, or we can place decoration or something like that. But for now, that's pretty okay. She basically has completed her first hole, which is definitely not a bad thing. This goes away, this slides up, and that's pretty much what you do the majority of the game, pretty much circling through those things. Let's bring those out, and I think as of the next round I will do that off camera because it's really not interesting to look at. So that's the 1, goes in here, that's the 6, goes in here. Oh, here's another water space, ideal, and yet another, I think, I don't know, are these holes? I have to check it out. Blue will be first anyway, and in theory he could now go for this, but yeah, that's not the best, not the worst thing, because there is another golfer, which is nice, and it also starts a new hole. I think that's not bad. I think Blue will go for this one here, and he will basically be in the lead. I think that's also not a bad thing. And yeah, I think Red, yeah, now this is really, that's a toughie. But I think she will go for it anyway. She could pass if there is something down here which she desperately wants, but it isn't actually. So I think she will simply go for this one here. Yeah, that's pretty cool. This goes away. Blue can now decide if he wants to complete this hole here, but that's only a part 2. I think, no, let's not do that. We will start a new hole, and to be honest, yeah, let's simply place it here. So this will be his hole 1 for now. And make sure you're not covering up any of those vital information, because that's a goal for here. And right now it's also a par 1 hole, so we mark it down accordingly. And I guess, yeah, she will also name this one hole 9. Yeah, why not? I think that's okay. So that's hole 9, so that we forget it. Right now, hole 9, if it stays this way, we'll have a par of 3 already. So we need 1 more. So if we get something like this again, then this would be a perfect fit closing off this one here, because then we really will score a lot of points for that. Okay, that's our new selection. Blue will go first. This is a tempting one too, actually. But it's also a risky one. No, I think Blue will go for this one here, because it has water, it has a golfer, and a par of 1. I think that's never a bad thing. Yeah, for Red it's a little bit more complicated, but I think she will simply go for this. It doesn't provide her anything other than a tile, but you also still want to complete your course. This gets discarded. So let's see again what Blue wants to do. We still have some more spaces up here, so I think let's extend hole 1 here, which means we place yet another cube here. So we already made it to a par 2 in this case, and we still have 1 more space up here. And that's really something that you must not forget, that you're building over stuff, or you're building holes where there shouldn't be a hole. It's not the worst thing in the world, but you will really lose some very, very important points this way. Then we have Red, and I think Red simply wants to place, yeah, this decoration here, a bunch of trees or shrubbery, don't really know what it is. We still have 1 more row up here, and I think I'm planning to do starting a new hole either here or there maybe. No, this doesn't work. In order to really make the perfect circuit, you really have to be orthogonally adjacent, so no longer diagonal. I could legally place it here, but then I think it wouldn't be my best choice. So we haven't extended any of our holes, so let's move into the next round. And in this case, red will go first. Here's another nice little water tile, which could be intriguing too, actually. It's a risk, but we could still try it because there is water. Here's also a golfer. That's 2 points, that's only 1 point, and they both have a par rating of 1. So I think in this case, this is also nice. Has 2 guys on it, or two golfers on it. No, I think let's be a little bit brave. So red will go for this tile here. And blue, I think he doesn't really want to end any of his holes yet, to be honest. So that's definitely a risk, to be honest. Interesting. That's really interesting now. Maybe he wants to pass but he also wants to complete his course as fast. Keep in mind, we have the fast promise, so we want to end the game as soon as possible. I think in this case, yeah, let's simply go for this one here. Now let's place those tiles again. This gets discarded. So that's really not a bad hole for him. It's only a par 3, but still par 3 means it's in the green, so it will score him some points. It will not satisfy Mr. Lucky 4, but that's still okay. But we have completed hole number 1 here. I think overall that's definitely not a bad situation. And as I said, yeah, for red it could be a little bit challenging. I think that's still okay. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, that's still within bounds. Again, I can place it legally diagonally. At least this is how I understand it. It gives us, or gives red, 2 points for the whim of Mrs. Sprinkle, who wants to see water. So overall, that's basically 4 points. And overall, not a bad start for her. And in theory, we say that's part of hole 2 already, so that we don't forget. Which means hole 2 starts with a par rating of 1. Okie dokie, next round, red will go first. And that's another tempting tile here, to be honest. This one too. Oh boy. Oh, that's really, really tempting, because here are 2. And these are really 2 puddles of water. So that's 4 points plus the 2 points for... Oh, wow. It's still a risk, to be honest. Yeah. Where would she place that later on? Oh, that's bad. That's really bad, guys. That's too tempting. I think this is... these are both cool for her. This is too much, actually. And no, I think red will go for this one here. Again, that's also a huge risk, but I think it fits nicely into her. I think for blue, yeah, it's pretty obvious he will go for this one here. This one gets discarded, so he will play the course like this. Is it here? Is it there? I really don't know. In this case, it doesn't really matter. So we have increased hole 9 here by 2 more par. Not quite sure if you were able to see that, but we are already in the green here with 9. So if we make basically a simple start now with a par 1 addition, then we have met the perfect condition for the whim of Mr. Lucky 4 here. Amazing. And I think, yeah, we will place it like this. So we have increased the complexity of hole 2 by another 1. So I think this is a good chance that we will maybe able to make it to a hole 4 in total. And yeah, it adds at least some visitors here. So I think overall, that's definitely not the worst thing for her. Red is first. This is tasty, that's 2 points, but this is also nice, actually. I think she will go for this one here. Don't ask me why, just do it. And blue, I think, now blue can definitely go for this one here. That's 2 points right off the bat. I think we can easily place it here into the park. And keep in mind, so far we have placed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in total here, and we need 40 in order to make it. I believe those count too. So these are basically your starting tile counts for 4 tiles. So in theory, we need 36 additional tiles. So we still have a couple of turns to go. And this is where I really think maybe what I will do is I will show you 2-3 more rounds now here on camera. And then I may want to continue it blindly or basically off camera and show you the final scoring, because that's really the very cool part in this game, to be honest, which really brings a lot of tension out there. But for now, let's see how red wants to continue. I think this is still a thing we need to hold on to, so I think there's not a reason to place it like this. That's another golfer here, so that's another point at the end of the game. And yeah, in theory, there is this promise in the game. Maybe she has opted to place the most golfers in her park, but right now she's not really doing well in respect to that compared to the blue play. At least this is how I feel about it. So let's move into the next round, and blue will go first. Here's another nice little start. I think, yeah, he will definitely go for this one because he can complete a hole with that. That's pretty cool. And ooh, yeah, the red now really has a tricky question. Does she want to go for these 2 golfers, or does she need to go for this? This is very high. I think for now, she has no real interest doing this. On the other hand, if she passes now, she could have first dips down here, and not sure if there is something that she desperately needs down there either. So I think in this case, she will simply go for those 2 guys here. I think blue wants to complete hole 9. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. Hole 9 has a par rating of 4, which is 2 points. And it's also 2 additional points for Mr. Lucky 4 here. Nicely done. And yeah, I brought him 1 additional point for this golfer here. And we must not, I think we still have 3 more to go. Yeah, we are still okay. And I think, yeah, red will either place it here or there. Let's go for this one here. Some nice recreation. I think they're looking for the ball or so. I don't know what's she doing here. Is he mad with her? I have no clue. Okay, that's pretty much this round. Let's do 1 or 2 more now before I continue to play off camera, because the game is really relatively quickly, but really me drawing tiles and placing it, it's really not fun to look at. Can only imagine. By the way, there is a solo variant in the rules. It's basically something like beat your own score, which I don't really like a lot, but still relatively challenging, though it's also fun too. But we agreed that I'm doing a multiplayer demo of this game here. That's why I'm not showcasing the solitaire mode. And blue will go first. Interesting. Yeah, what is blue gonna do? It rhymes. This dog, by the way, doesn't count for a golfer. And, but he can complete this one here. I think, yeah, why not? Blue will go for this thing here. And for red, yeah, I think red, that's perfect. Red will go in here. I think that's a good one, actually. So blue wants to continue, I guess, here with hole 1. So in theory, he could make it here or he could make it there. And I think there's not a reason not doing this here. So this would be most likely hole 8 for now. It starts off with a par 2, which is definitely a good start already. And now I think it's a good time to explain you how this circuit scoring category works, because again, you want to come, or the golfers basically want a pretty clean circuit in order to basically start here from hole 1 going to hole 2, hole 3, want to go from hole 8 to the start of hole 9, and for each of those that is adjacent, also from the end to the beginning of the next hole, if that's really orthogonally adjacent, that will score your point. And the same is true from hole 9 to the exit, or here from the entry to hole 1. So that's pretty much 2 points, 4 points and 6 points here. Overall, really cool stuff. So he's doing pretty well in that regard, but so is red too. So she will simply place this tile here because she still has some room to go. Doesn't give her an additional par rating for hole 9, but I think she only wants 1 additional one to go to land on a par 4 here in order to score some additional points. And I think, yeah, let's simply do one more now before I continue to play this off camera. Red is first, and I think, this is 2 golfers, this is only 1 golf. I think she will go for this tile. That's a perfect tile for her, by the way. And blue, blue. I think blue will go for this one. This is also pretty amazing. 2 golfers, 2 points, plus 1 water puddle. That's another 2 points. Also pretty amazing. Blue is really doing very, very well, actually. So he's going to extend this hole. And there's also something that you have to keep in mind. You have to play that in the correct orientation. So if for whatever reason I plan it like this, then apparently I cannot play it here, because this is the I don't know what it's called, and basically place it like this. But to be honest, that's usually something you should be fair. So yeah, that's pretty amazing. We have extended hole 8 with another par rating, so that's already in the green here. Of course, if he now adds more stuff like crazy and adds here at 6 or 7 or plus or more than 7, then yeah, apparently he no longer doesn't get any points for that. Red doesn't mean you're losing points, but it's more likely that it's not really beneficial for you. And red can now decide if she wants to basically, I think let's continue hole 2 for now, because then I'm not forgetting that this is pretty much the top. This is another hole or par rating we are increasing here, so that's already a par 3. So overall, again, she's also not doing bad in respect to her. But yeah, I think both of the players have 3 holes now on the board. I think that's still okay-ish. But I think as of now, we'll continue to play the game basically off camera. Maybe I will do 1 or 2 in-between shots to really show you where we are. But I think as of now, let's continue, or I will continue playing on more, because I really want to explain you how the final scoring actually works. And by the way, in case you wondered, when would I be allowed to add an additional promise card, or add a promise card to my choosing here? There are some tiles in this huge bag here where there's a handshake symbol on it, and when you draw this, and all of the players now can make a choice if they want to add 1 or more additional promises. You can never remove those. So promises made are promises made, but you can always add additional promises to that. And there's also a special rule: if for whatever reason not a single one comes up, then if one of the players basically calls for an and, then all of the players can really then also add some more promises. So you will always have that possibility in the game. But now I think I will continue to play on my own. See you in a bit. Okay, and here I'm back. Now it finally happened. I drew one of those handshake symbols. So I basically stop, or everyone stops right now. Maybe let's have a quick look at our golf courses so far. So you see blue was able to complete hole 7 right now. Overall, he's not doing bad in respect to those promises for Mr. Lucky 4. So he already has completed 4 as a par 4, and hole 2 could be another one. On the other hand, that's pretty much the same for the red player. She already has 1, 2, 3, 4 holes in total. So I think, not quite sure, but both of the players now can make a choice to add more promise cards. And yeah, basically we will do that now for red off camera, so I will not show you what red is going for. But blue feels very comfortable to basically go for her whim promise, which says have enough water in the park. And right now he really has a lot of these water spaces. So I think that's works out pretty okay for the blue player. And then I will continue to play. So this goes away. We bring out new tiles. So that's a 10. That's a 9. That's a 7, 7, 9, and 10. And now I will continue to play off camera. See you in a bit. Okay, back to the game. Blue has just completed his final hole, hole number 5, which is this one up here. And it's basically the next round. The problem is red is first, but she still has a little hole here. The problem is there is nothing she can fill it out. She already has completed all of her holes. She did really well, actually. But again, she has to make a choice, and I guess, that's a tough now, because she knows she will not be able to finish her thing, because again, here she doesn't get anything, here he doesn't get anything. We don't know what's coming out next. Actually, it could be the same selection, and then every time, because blue will now basically call the end of the game, because in theory you can end the game anytime you want, and you start collecting those extra points for each basically round you're doing nothing. You can still, you grab a tile, and each of those tiles is worth you 3 points. And keep in mind, he has made the fast promise. So I think in this case, blue has to make it, red has to make a call, and I think she will say, I will call it a game. She will grab this tile, we place it just face down next to her. That's 3 points for her. Each tile of those, and I think blue again has no real reason not to do that, so he will also call it an end. So he will still get this extra tile, and that's pretty much it. We will now start scoring the game. Hooray! How this works is we will now go through each of those categories. We get the points for the categories. So the first one, design a popular mini golf course, is pretty much you count all the characters in your park. You get those points right off the bat, and then you will basically place a scoring here. So the player who is first goes in here, the player who is second goes in here apparently, and then at the end of all these scoring, only then will we pretty much show the promise cards. In theory, you can do that right away, but let's keep it interesting, shall we? So I will do the counting of the golfers in each of the players' parks, and that's the result so far. So blue has 49 visitors, and red only, quote unquote, has only 44. So in this case, we have scored our first dimension here, which is first place to the blue player, and second place for the red player. Next, we basically as fast as you can. So we simply score those. So each of the players now get 3 points each, because they have both one tile. They decided to end the game. In this case, they will both be first in this category. But again, they will both score 1, 2, 3 points. 1, 2, 3. So he's already at 52 points in total. Next, we check the next dimension here, which satisfies the whim of Mrs. Klein. So Mrs. Klein again wants to see water. 2 points for each water, and I think blue did exceptionally well here. So blue had pretty much 8 of those water spaces. That's 16 more points for blue. It's definitely the first place here. So 16 is 18 points, so that's definitely first place. And yeah, red only scored 2 basically, if I recall that. Yeah, it's only 2. Wow, that was really bad actually. So she will score 1, 2, 3 points, so she will also be at 50 points, but he's already at 68. Insane. Next, we check for the preferences of Mr. Klein. Again, he wants to see par 4 holes, and we get 2 points for those. Again, the easiest way to do that is look at the scoreboard. So that's a par 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those. 6 times 2, it's 12 points for red. So let's put it like this. But to be honest, I think even here blue succeeded. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, he will score 14 points. Again, he's in the lead in this category. Oh, wow. This is really, really insane. Again, we will add 14 points, 22, 32 for blue, and 12 points for red in this case. Ooh, wow, that's bad. It's really bad. Next, we will score the par cubes in the green area, and I think that's yeah. Basically, all of the players have only holes in the green area, so both of the players will now score 18 points. The problem is red still has 1 cube left, and that's a penalty, which in this case again means blue will be in the lead. So yet again, blue will score 18 points, whereas red only will score 17 points. Oh, that's so unfortunate. Wow, with one cube, but was really doing good actually. Let's see, I think, yeah, blue will move to 100. Hooray. And yeah, red will get 17 points more. That's 1929. Oh, that's a toughie. And yeah, we still have to assign the cubes here. Wow, can you see that? Blue is in the lead everywhere, and these are kind of friendly tiles. So even here, he is in theory first. Next, we will check for the land card. So both of the players will now score their base score. So that's 16 points. He didn't make any mistakes here, which means he get the full 16 points for that. Wow, that's really insane. On the other hand, base rating is a 17, but she has a hole here, and a hole basically costs you 1 point. So in total, she will also score 16 points, which is not bad actually. So I think it was definitely worth for her basically ending the game early, not going after this one measly point here. So they will both score 16 points. So blue will be at 116 exactly, whereas red 35, 45, so 95 points for her. But they are both here in the first place, which is a good thing. And next thing is we will form a circuit. That's the one thing that may be a little bit complicated at first, but I will showcase this to you at the blue players golf course. So we start from the entrance. We can move directly orthogonally adjacent to the entrance of hole 1, so that's 2 points. Then we move over here, here's the end of hole 1, and we can directly move to hole 2, so that's 2 points, 4 points. Same is true here, directly orthogonally adjacent. 6 points, 8 points, 10 points, 12 points, 14 points, 16 points, 18 points, full 20 points. High score. Amazing job, blue. So again, that's 20 points for blue. Not bad. Let's do the same for red. 2 points, 4 points. So far, so good. 6 points, but here it breaks. 6 points, 6 points, 6 points. 8 points, that's fine. Points, 10 points, 12 points, 14 points, 16 points, 18 points. So overall, not entirely bad. I think, yeah, we simply moved, yeah, we lost this one here. So from 3 to 4, that's okay. But again, that from 4 to 5, that's okay. So it's only 2 points that are missing, but still bad enough, which means red will score 18 points here. What is this? 20 points for blue. So that's 136 for now. Red will also score 20 points, 5, 15. So she's at 115. Blue is again first, and last but not least, we will now reveal our promise cards. So her win promise and fast promise. We already know that. He was fastest together with red. Red's totally fine, so therefore he will score 10 more points. So that's 146 actually. And he also is the whim of Mrs. Klein. He also made it here. So he's now at 150. I don't know, that's 10 points. 156 points in total for blue. Let's see how red is doing, and that was bad. His whim promise, she didn't win, because that's the whim of Mr. Klein. She's in second, so she will now lose 10 points, going down to 105. Second card is the fun promise, which she also loses. She doesn't have more golfers than the others. She will lose again 10 more points, which brings her down 1 and 5. I think 95 points in total. Wow, that's a wash. But again, these promise cards at the end of the game can really make or break the game for you. So in theory, she could have also went for this one, but she knew she had the longer golf course, so that's really not likely. And yeah, with the par rating here, or no, fits inside the land, I think she also scored some points. But yeah, maybe she could have also went for this promise here too. But overall, that's how it goes. So I think it's 196 points. No, 156 points, sorry for that, for blue, and 95 points for red. And yeah, that's pretty much how you play Minigolf Designer. As mentioned, it's currently on Kickstarter and there's a lot more to explore. Again, there are a lot more golf courses out there, easier and tougher ones. We have more preference cards. Mrs. Sloppy here, for example, she wants to see elevations. Mrs. Bloom, she wants to see flowers. Or let's look at Mr. Uberstitious, that's a really crazy one actually. Mr. Long, he wants to see a hole with a length of 4 or more tiles, for example. Mr. Linear only wants to see straight holes and things like that. So, and again, combining those preferences here of both of those really gives you a new experience each time you play the game. And again, don't let you fool you by the artwork here. It's really a very serious game. And then it's fun to play, but it's definitely a serious game. Really a lot of thinking going on in this game. I really hope you enjoyed my little walkthrough of Minigolf Designer. Hope to see you soon in one of my other videos, and until then, bye bye.